This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today, to start turning your dreams into a reality. Appreciate the little things people do for you. Don't let those things become expected acts of kindness. And that is one of Melissa Minuti's favorite quotes. You will find out that this woman not only loves this quote, but lives by this quote. I'm so excited to actually publish this episode because Melissa's become a huge part of my life, and I'm very, very thankful for her to be part of it. She's been a huge champion of mine, and I am just really excited about the conversation we had and the interview we had together. I really want to say thank you to you for listening, and I want to say thank you so much for anybody that's leaving reviews and taking time out of their day to leave a review. I recently got an interview or a review from N24K who says, Logan is making a huge difference in people's lives by publishing these episodes on his podcast. He not only scratches his own itch, but he scratches my itch too, because I'm really curious about so many things, but most of all, whenever I listen to his show, I feel so much less alone. And when I feel less alone, I can't wait until he publishes another episode. Thank you so much, because that's exactly what I want my show to do. I want people to feel less alone, and I want more so for two things to happen for people. I want people to believe in themselves, and even more so, I want people to know that they have a community to come to if they ever need one. Come to Scratch Your Own Itch Facebook group and join that group. Scratch Your Own Itch, create a life worth living. And if you have any questions on fitness, if you have questions on authoring your own book, if you have any questions on owning your own business, please come to that group and invite yourself. And if you are looking for help to do your own podcast, I am only accepting a few people, but I'd love you to email me at logan@logantylernelson.com. And I'm helping a few people put a podcast together, as well as help you with your fitness goals, just because I'm super fascinated on people being able to transform their bodies. And this is the thing I really, really, really care a lot about, because I think mental wealth is so important, but even more so, sometimes physical health is the way to make you mentally wealthy. When you change yourself, you change the world. And that is not something that I created. That is something that Jim Rohn has said. That is something that Jack Canfield says. That is something that your favorites of self-development legends will say. If you want to save the world, save yourself first. Because tell you what, the economy is going to do whatever it wants to do. The society around you is going to do whatever it wants to do. The people around you, your family members, your friends will do whatever they want to do. But if you change yourself and start seeing the world in the lens that you choose to see it as, it will be incredible. And that is something I can promise you. But one more thing. I always promise you a question to ask yourself. A really hard question to ask yourself. But you need to ask yourself, what is it that makes you you? Ask yourself that. And think about that question while you're listening to this interview. What is it that makes you you? All right, without further ado, enjoy my interview with Melissa Minuti. Hey, you. Yeah, you. I'm talking to just you right now. So have you ever wondered how you can really find your peace? Find your peace through purpose? Well, you're in luck because I have an incredible guest today that does just this. Her name is Melissa Minuti. If you've never heard of Melissa, well, Melissa gets fired up by having entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders to step outside of their comfort zone, discover their passions, and unlock their true peace in life through purpose. Most recently, Melissa joined Habitude Warrior International as a global marketing director to oversee the marketing campaigns and streamline business productions on a national level, and is excited to be a part of the movement which inspires people to live their passions and offer their absolute best self to the world. And today, Melissa and I are going to dig deep into that. And we're also going to just ask some super awesome, scratching the surface curiosity questions. So enjoy this interview with Melissa Minuti and I. And I'd love to introduce you all to Melissa. Hey, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, me too. So I know that you're a listener of the show, and I'm really privileged that you have listened to the show, and you know that we get a little vulnerable on this show. And so the first thing I'd like to do is unlock that vulnerability and ask you, what you're struggling with, or what have you struggled with, and what was that kind of terrible trauma that you had to go through in order to become the awesome woman that you are today?
So what a great question. And honestly, I absolutely love it because, life is really, it's a series of challenges or speed bumps, really, depending on what mindset you have going into it. And, I would say that my biggest challenge has always been myself. The great news in that is that's the one thing we can control, right? And getting into my own head, letting those lies play as tapes over and over and over again, right? And what ends up happening is you don't take risks because you let fear get in the way, or you let that self-doubt get in the way, and you don't grow. So, at this point, I like to look at those struggles as speed bumps or as growth opportunities, because on the other side of it, going through is going to make you a heck of a lot stronger and more capable to help others. So hopefully that answers.
I feel like it doesn't, because it beats around the bush quite a bit. I want to know exactly what you had to go through.
Okay,
Um,
cool. So, yeah, growing up, like, let me just go all the way right back to the beginning. Um, my mom was great in a lot of different ways. She did the best she could with who she was, but she also did a really good job at, drilling to my head. And then I've got a sister and a couple half siblings, that we just weren't good enough. And, I embodied that, and I would put myself into situations that would further that self-doubt and that belief. Um, and as a result, when things would happen in life, and we dealt with a lot of loss early on. I actually at 12 years old, I walked in to find my grandmother passed away on the floor. My dog died at the same time. My parents had gone through a divorce. My uncle committed suicide. It was just one thing after another after another. And at the same time, we were watching, a lot of toxic behavior on my mom's part, with suicide attempts, with lashing out and taking things out on the rest of us. And truly, as a kid, I would embody that, and I would tell myself, this is my fault. This is this is because I'm not good enough. And again, I basically spent a lot of my life, um, you know, pretty severely depressed. Um, Great at painting a smile on, to get through the day, but I was my own worst enemy. So that was really, I think, my biggest challenge was I internalized all of that. That was the driving force in whether I would say yes to an opportunity, and I really lived in fear for a long time. Yeah, I got great grades in school. I tried to excel as much as I could because I didn't like who I was. And I just wanted to get that validation that, yeah, I was enough. And, the thing is none of us are perfect. I'm far from it. And I love that about myself because that means that I still have things that I get to work on, right? And that means that I can connect with and relate with others as a result of those things. Um, but you do yourself and you do the world a disservice when you live in that safety net. And honestly, that safety net is an illusion, right? Because again, perfection is completely unattainable. And if you are constantly striving to be perfect and to only do things that you think you're capable of, imagine how much of your life you're missing out on. And it cheats the world too of the gifts that you have within you.
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's not easy for people to go in that past and dig up the hard times but you're right. You're exactly right. It makes us who we are, and no one's perfect. I hear that time and time again, that even all these high performing, high achieving people, they always feel like they need to be perfect, and it's just some negative thought that enters our mind. And I love to ask myself if that thought is actually helpful or hurtful. And sometimes is it helpful to believe that you're perfect? No. But I'd love to move on to asking you, your thing is you have this deep, deep, deep inquisitive mind of like what makes someone become their fullest. It just illuminates from you, and I love the way your brain works in that way, where you have that deep, deep curiosity. So, what do you think? What do you think the number one question is to ask someone to unlock this for themselves?
So, before I answer that, I actually you just said something about how it's not easy to drill into our painful, stuff, right? That stuff that we carry around with us, and that, ultimately shapes how we live our lives, right? And you're right, you're 100% right. It's so not easy. But I love to tell people all the time that it's easier to go through the process of working through your pain, your junk, right? Than it is to live the rest of your life not dealing with it or avoiding it. And so, as much as it can be a struggle to really, I guess, work through it, it's so worthwhile. And the person that you become on the other side, like, you're gonna love the heck out of it. So whether it's hard or not, like, embrace that. Sorry, I just that just totally I had to say it. So the number one question. Okay. So, one of the questions I think that was the hardest for me to answer, that gets presented a lot, is what do you love? What do you love doing? And the struggle for me personally answering that was that I lived in my own head so much, and I lived in my comfort zone, and in that fear, that place of fear, and that illusion of control so much, that I didn't know how to answer that question, right? Because I wasn't taking risks. I wasn't trying new things. I was scared to live my life. And so what the heck did I even really know? There were little blips of, like, doing something that was, like, completely out of my norm. And I usually had really great experiences, but still that wasn't enough at the time for me to really just say yes to new things. So I didn't know how to answer the question until I was, I think, was it 30 or 31? Well, I'm 31 now, so maybe 30. I didn't know how to answer that question until I was like 30 years old. What do you love? And when you go through the process of, like I said, dealing with your stuff and figuring out, where you're limiting your life, and you're not saying yes to experiences, you start to be able to find the answer to that. So it's a super important question to ask yourself what it is that fires you up and what you love. But there's a whole heck of a lot of process that you need to go through in order to get there.
Yeah, I love that answer. Very awesome. I am kind of writing a book right now exactly about that, and one of my biggest questions that I ask is, what do you love? What makes time go by so fast that you go, gosh, where did the time go? And it's really odd how it becomes easier. Life becomes easier. And not that I would ever wish a fast life upon anybody, but I do believe that when you live a fast life, it often correlates with, well, you also lived a life that was worth living. It was fast because you were doing things that you enjoyed doing. You were constantly scratching your own itch. You were compassionate about things, and you were constantly creative. And so I think when you do those things, it's incredible. So thank you, Melissa, for giving that question. The next thing I'd like to ask you is, what do you think is a book that someone needs to read and just read time and time again? And I think I know your answer, but I'm not sure.
I think you know my answer. Do you want to answer for me? Oh my goodness.
No.
So, okay. So
I'll give you
there's
the
this.
I'll give you the glory.
Sure. There's an amazing book, and I just want to ask your entire audience, that may be listening today, to go back and listen to the recent interview with Tom Asacker, because he actually is the author of the book that I'm going to mention, and it's called I Am Peace. And oh my goodness, I have read it 6 times from front to back. Each time I read this book, I take something different away, because I've become a different person in between. Because truly, this book was, I had done a whole heck of a lot of personal development when I walked away from my engineering career, because, guys, you can't be in business if you're not willing to deal with your stuff, right? Because we've got to grow to be that person that's living that life that we've been dreaming of, right? We've got to grow there. We've got to grow our way to that point. And so I had done a ton of personal development, but there was still a piece of the puzzle that was missing for me. And that was definitely found in that book. Our mind is so powerful. And when we can remove those barriers that those barriers of belief, of self-doubt, of fear, we can remove those from the equation, we actually get to start living. So that would absolutely 1,000% be the book that everybody needs to pick up. The audiobook is also awesome, and Tom narrates it. So, you can get it in really whatever format you want, but I guarantee it's going to blow your mind. You read
Yeah.
it. What do you think? So share your takeaways.
Oh, we're gonna have to have a whole episode on that.
Love
Now
it.
I would love to get into it, but seriously, it changed the way I'm starting to operate in the world. It's just uh, that book spurred me into writing a book. And I'm actually doing it every single day. Like I actually like miss writing when I'm not writing. It's incredible, and that's just because of this deep like Keats thing, where it's just going and doing it and not thinking about it and just doing it. And that's my smallest little thing that you can get from it, is like that negative thought that you have on your mind of not doing something. Like when you constantly just keep proving it wrong, it is incredible how life can work for you. Like, and I'm not trying to like say that there's no dark moments during my day, or there's not negative thoughts, and there's not times where I just wish I was someone else. Like there still is that thing that happens, but just testing it is going to give you a new perspective on life. Like testing that negative thought is amazing. It's really just
Mm-hmm.
like you said, earlier, you find out what you love by testing the things that you hate sometimes. Or going through challenges and
Absolutely.
stuff.
Absolutely. So you'd laugh when you saw my vision board, but I literally have the question written in huge letters across it, and it just says, are you going to die? And that's the question that when an opportunity, or when, an opportunity, I guess, to have a new experience is presented to me, I ask myself that question. If I have a desire, even if it's like super minute, for me to say yes, because I know that I'm either going to grow as a result, or I'm going to find out something new about myself, or there's a awesome potential there for me to impact more people and change more lives. I ignore the fact that I'm afraid, because I still feel afraid, right? I think we all do. It's like it's part of our makeup, right? But even if I feel afraid, I ignore that and I say, am I going to die? And if the answer is probably not, and honestly, I lean on the probably not side instead of the absolute no, because, we're all going to die at some point. But so if I'm probably not going to die, I'm going to make it through the other side okay, then I do it. Like, why the heck not? Again, like, where are those growth opportunities, and where are those opportunities to make an impact?
That is so cool. That is really, really neat. The way you put it, am I going to die? And the answer is always going to be yes. And that's the thing. If you're going to die, why not try? And check out, I'm going to reference, first I'm going to clear my throat because I'm dying right now. uh, reference 5 Regrets of the Living. They one thing that they regret right away is they wish they worked on things that they loved more and worked less often. But that could be just the sort of paradox of life, or the sort of trickery that we have to go through some hard things to get to the good things. And I do believe that a little bit, that's been time and time again, that often if it was easy, then everyone would do it. So you just got to try it out, and you can't like discover your passion, which I think that you kind of answered. I was going to ask you, like, does someone discover their passion? I think, and the answer is no, you don't discover it. You just get into it and dig into it, and try it out. But I do want to ask you, Melissa, have you ever felt like you had a mentor in your life, or some sort of parent in your life that's taught you the most, and what do they teach you?
Oh my gosh, I've got a list. I am so
Just do
blessed.
like one,
Yeah.
one or two.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna pick my amazing father, who, oh my gosh, he's got this innate ability to focus on the positive. And pausing because I'm gonna totally cry right now. It's been a tough few days. All right. Okay. I think I've got my composure. So my
No, you're
dad
totally okay.
just just went in to the hospital on Sunday. He had a heart attack. And heart disease is totally like this is a history thing. Like he had his first heart attack when I was in elementary school. He's had 5 bypasses, like he's like bionic man or something. But he's my best friend. And he's got this ability. I'm gonna give you 2 examples. When he was in the hospital this time, when they went in to put a stent in and remove the blockage, some of the plaque traveled up. He had a series of strokes as a result, and he's got some vision loss in one of his eyes. He goes, well, I mean, it could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. Like at least my face, I still have full muscular control. I can still eat because it always boils down to food for him. And he was finding the bright side in this, what many people would be groping and crying about, right? Because yeah, there's a loss there, but there's also the ability to look at life through a different lens and see, well, where's the good that I can pull out of it? Oh my gosh, it could have been worse. People have it a lot worse than I do. So I love that, and there was another example where his car got stolen. His pride and joy car, he just put a whole bunch of money into it, and it got taken right from his driveway. And guess what? He was like, oh, well, it's just a car. I still have my health. Like, I mean, it blows my mind. His ability to not focus on the negative and to choose to love the heck out of life, to fail forward, right? Because he's made a whole heck of a lot of mistakes, but he's had a whole heck of a lot of success as a result. Because he loves who he is, he's comfortable, and he's able to always just be in that state of gratitude. He's amazing. And then my Shannon mom, and so I call her my Shannon mom. She's my stepmother. She takes such amazing care of my dad, but she is just like absolutely brilliant. Her drive to push through every single challenge that life holds, and to just really dig into the why, or the curiosity, as you talk about often. And ultimately, that curiosity that she possesses, that ability to just sit back and let answers flow through her by experiences. It's been a absolute blessing in my life, and ultimately in the lives of many others, because her and Tom Asacker have created I Am Keats. So it's absolutely, it just, I hands down, those two, they're my rock.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for just letting yourself be who you are right now, and not holding back. And to do that means so much to me. And this is exactly what I do this for, is just to make someone feel less alone. And I know people that are out there, just that one person that's out there right now that needs to know that they have a mentor. And if they are sad about talking about them, or it brings up this emotion, that means it's something that really means something to you. Um, and someone that, when they say something to you, it's not just another piece of information that's going in one ear and not the other. It's information that's actually being absorbed and then practiced throughout life. And I know that you are an incredible human being. And I don't say those 2 words very often, incredible human being. So I guess that's 3 words. I don't say those 3 words very often, because there are just not that many, unfortunately. But I do believe that there's more that are developing. And I know that's scary to say on a show like this, but you right now, that's listening, that doesn't feel like you're an incredible human being. You are enough, and you matter. And Melissa is someone that you would need to get in touch with, if you believe that you fall in that category as well. And so anyways, I went on a tangent, and I didn't want to, but I did. I want to.
I just adore you. I absolutely love you, and you are an absolutely incredible human being. So, all right, that's all I wanted to say. I will turn it back over to you. I like to interrupt
Thank you.
sometimes.
No, you're great. You're good. I do want to just ask you, scratching the surface curiosity questions. This is just first thing that comes to mind. And if you go on a little tangent, no big deal. Just be who you are. But I do want to ask you these questions because I think it is a way for someone to find their area of supremacy before they believe like they're not enough, because we need some confidence sometimes every now and then before we actually step into the shoes that are going to allow us to create a life that we're feel like we deserve to start living. So whenever you're ready.
I am ready.
Awesome. So the first question is, what's a terrible habit or idea that you keep having that you just wish you didn't have anymore?
So great question. I would say that, ooh, all right. So we all, well, maybe not we all, but I feel as though it's pretty common that we can be our own worst enemy, right? And so I still am super critical of myself at times, and I really do have a tendency to beat myself up. And so, you know, when you can recognize, when you've got that awareness, right? When you can recognize where maybe you self-sabotage a little bit, guess what? Now you've got control again. You can make a different decision. And so while those thoughts still come back into my head, like, oh my gosh, how could you drop the ball? How could you mess that up so much? Like, you're just stupid. Whatever I'm hearing in my head, like, I can get on the other side of it, like, so much quicker now, just because of developing the skills, the tools to work through it, and to basically eject the tape. Because, guys, if you have those tapes playing in your head, right? Like, you get to decide whether you want to let that impact you, whether you want to let that continue to play, or whether you want to literally hit the eject button. Like, I'm thinking like a cassette player. Remember when we had those? And literally throw it out the window and put a different one in. So yeah, I mean, I would say that's still one of the things that, I always have it. Who knows? I don't really care, because I know how to get to the other side of it now.
That is it. That's the confidence that you need to kill off that terrible thing that keeps popping in your head. So oh my God, I love that
Let
so
me let
much.
me let me add
Yeah,
one
what's
thing
up?
to that too. One, I had a actually I when I was in Boston in November for the last Habitude Warrior conference. And one of the things that really, it just like hit me right upside the head was, I was there, I was listening to let me back up and explain what Habitude Warrior is. So it's a 3-day conference, 33 speakers, TED Talk style. you know um, Basically, the topics are success mastery day 1, millionaire mindset day 2, social millions and branding day 3. And so I'm sitting there, and I was part of the team coord meeting, and I'm just like absorbing and writing down these notes. And in my head, I'm sitting there like, how the heck am I going to implement this golden nugget that I just took away? And the great thing was is I got a heck of a lot of the stories behind the story, right? Like, not just the pretty package that's presented, by a speaker. It's like, okay, well, what were your struggles? What were your challenges? How did you get through them? And you find out that people are just like they all have struggles too, and they were able to get to this point that they feel that they're successful. And so I'm sitting there literally in my head saying, how the heck am I going to implement this? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I realized that I was taking certain things as truth. I was really eager to go implement them into my life and my business. But then when they would give me a compliment, I would throw that aside. I would throw that aside and say, oh, well, they can't be serious about that. They can't mean that, but they definitely are experts on this topic. And so I was being a hypocrite. And that blew my mind, because the thing is maybe we don't believe things about ourselves right away, but we get to decide whether we're going to act on that or not. And that was the moment that I had like massive clarity. And I said, if I'm going to take what they're teaching or what they're sharing over here as truth, then even if I believe this or not, when they're giving me some positive, compliments, when they're recognizing a strength that they see in me, even if I don't believe it, I'm gonna act as if it's true. And there's power in that.
Wow, that's a huge musing. That's a cool insight that you had on yourself. My mind was just a little blown right there. It's so, and I think it comes down to little habits that we have inside of our head, right? That like, you just go on autopilot, like, and so, really, it takes practice to retrain your brain and rewire your brain to believe the things that you want to believe, and actually becoming vulnerable and actually saying, the truth is, I think it comes down to a habit. Like, really, if you're just habitually always lying, it's really hard to be authentic. And that's now a new word that's being thrown around. And I guess it kind of like leads me to my next question. What do you think makes someone truly who they are? And I know that's a big question. But the first thing, like, just maybe a quote or something that you got from a book that you think if they said this quote to themselves more often, they would really fall into authenticity.
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because, so first of all, I'm really not good at recalling. I don't like to store I don't like to store things. I like to be able to just go find them. So I don't have quotes memorized on purpose. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I've got like some allotted amount of brain space.
Well, what's the
Probably not
what's the
true.
fir-
But so, honestly, what makes somebody who they are? It's I think it boils down to experiences and being conscious. Like, you mentioned the word autopilot, and that's the biggest disservice we can do for ourselves, is to just go through life on autopilot. Because how many times do you walk out the door and look up and appreciate the stars? How many times do you stop and ask yourself, is this something that I really truly want to be doing right now? Or is this something that I feel great about because I am, helping somebody? Or where's the lesson in this? And how many times do we miss that? And the truth is there are no ordinary moments in life. So stop being on autopilot and just existing. When you're conscious, when you are aware of what's going on around you, and what you can be learning and gathering data from your experiences, that's how you start to let go of things like limiting beliefs. That's when you start to say, this is what I love, and this is who I am, and this is where my passion is, and this is what my purpose is. And it honestly, it takes waking up. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess that's the direction that I took it
No, that is perfect. Perfect answer. I do want to reference Sam Harris's book, Waking Up. If you want to check that out. He also has a podcast about waking up. And it's one of those things, kind of like your friend Tom. You'll listen to it and it'll do things to you where you feel like you're woken up. And that's what this podcast is for. And that's what I'm trying to do, is not like wake you up with energy, but really just start breaking down your belief system, so you start inheriting the belief system that you want in your life, because it comes down to beliefs. I mean, there's people that debate science all day and night, but when it comes down to the right nutrition, or the right workout, or the right perfect gender, uh, the gender inheritance they should have on their viewpoint of like whether or not a guy or a girl is making more money, all those things can be argued day and night. But when it comes down to your system of beliefs, you don't have to argue those. You can inherit whatever belief you want. So I want to
in.
ask you
Absolutely.
just really quick. I know that you could probably rant on that idea for a second, but I will let you. Um, what is it, the belief that you had when you were 20 that is completely not true today?
Ooh, okay. So there was a whole bunch of them. One was that I just wasn't good enough and I wasn't capable. Another one was that there is, this, there's a right path that you have to be on. And, the truth is that reality is going to show you that your path is going to change 100 different ways. It's not this, you making a choice today to do something new is not going to ruin the course of the remainder of your life. Like, there is very few decisions, and honestly, I'm tempted to say there is really no decisions that you can make, being mindful of, let's do good for other people instead of harm, right? But there's really no decisions that you can make that are going to say, oh my gosh, that's it, your life's over. So try new things, do new things. Like, and again, ask yourself the question, is saying yes to this gonna kill me? Well, probably not. So then do it. The whole idea of stability. So a little bit about my background. I went to college. I didn't want to go to college, right? But I did because I thought that was the next step I had to take. I went to college to be an engineer. I worked in manufacturing. I was a process engineer. Burnt myself out for just under 10 years because, of course, I had to start working my sophomore year as an engineer because I had to overachieve that quest for perfection. The illusion was that going and getting that degree, going and getting that great career, that was going to equal stability. And the truth is, I went through like 3 layoffs before I even turned 30. Stability doesn't exist. Like, you never know how your life is going to be altered. We don't have control. So, if you have the awareness of that, then do what fires you up. And if you don't know the answer to that, say yes to a heck of a lot of things until you find it out. I'd rather learn that, through an experience that I don't love something, or that maybe it's okay, and I don't know, I don't want to eat that ever again, or whatever the case is. But it's going to teach me something about myself. I would much rather do that than stay in a safety net.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, it sounds like you welcome the fear. You love to taste it as much as often, and it's not easy, but it's the life that you'd rather at least live, so you don't regret
Yeah,
later on. Just
100%.
two more,
Well, I'm going to
two
interrupt
more.
you
Yeah,
because
what's up? What's up?
yeah, you just touched on fear, and honestly, that was a conscious effort. Um, I like I said, I was great at living in a comfort zone and doing what I thought I was supposed to do. I didn't really, travel a whole heck of a lot, and oh my gosh, I love to travel. I didn't really, like, I wasn't living, I was existing, right? And the thing is I went through 2016 was one of my most personally challenging years, the best year of my life, because I got to go through that and I got to find myself, on the other side of it, right? On the other side of struggle, where we find through the fire. And, I consciously had to make a decision that I wanted a heck of a lot more out of life. And not only that, but me saying I wanted a heck of a lot out of life, me going through the process of figuring out how that looks, I wanted to share that with people around me so that they could find, their awesome life as well. And so, I very publicly did a 30-day no fear challenge. And, it was, I basically, I went live every single day on Facebook, and it was amazing. It was amazing. So cool that I grew through that, but even better was watching what it was doing for other people. And I guess one of the tricks that I've learned when you've got a heart for helping others, you can overcome any fear in front of you when you take the focus off yourself and put it onto somebody else. How can me going through this, or growing through this, or facing this, how can me doing that help someone else? Boom, there's your answer. That's how you get over the fear.
Ah, the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up right now. So true. Yeah, that is the premium truth juice that you're gonna have to drink today, is when you just dedicate and devote it to something bigger than yourself. there is no such thing as a stop sign anymore. So the next question I'd love to ask you, though, is the craziest thing starts to happen to people when they start to do X, Y, Z. The first thing that comes to your thought. Let's hear it.
The craziest thing that starts to happen to people when they step out of their comfort zone is they start to really find out who they are, and they start to seek opportunities to love the heck out of their life.
I love that answer. All right. Well, the last question I need to ask you, and we'll leave it off to that person that's listening right now. What do you wish that someone could just start doing for themselves today in order to start creating a life worth living?
So I think the first thing that I would wish for them is to say yes to new opportunities that intrigue them, even if it scares them, especially if it scares them, because they're gonna love who they become on the other side.
I love that. All right, Melissa, thank you so much, so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch. Where can people find you if they want to? Because I didn't create this show just for another person to be heard and then they hit next, but I want you to become a friend with Melissa and myself, and to not just look at us as heroes or someone that said something that really inspired you or made you think in a different way, but to really become a friend. Like, I want community. I want to hang out with more people that are like you right now. So where can people find Melissa?
All right. So first of all, thank you for having me on, and honestly, thank you for having the courage, the confidence to really just dig into real raw stuff, because that's where the answers are. And I absolutely just love and adore you for that. So
Thank you.
Also, please add me to your Facebook group so that way I can interact and connect with people as well. But guys, if you want to find me, you can find me it's in 3 places. So melissaminuti.com. So Melissa's 1 L, 2 S's, MINUTI.com. Best place to find me, girlwiththegreenhair.com. That'll bring you right to my Facebook page. And then also habitudewarriorconference.com. So whatever is your preference, you can find me at all of the above.
Nice. And I'll add
community.
Nice. I'll add that in the show notes. And yeah, this girl's rocking it. She's got one of the biggest hearts ever. She has just been like above and beyond, and she's also spoke to me out of this interview for like hours on end. So she is not on this planet to just make money and then move on. She's on this planet to make true impact, to create relationships with people that really want to change their lives for the better and live in and not just a happy life, but a fulfilling life, because they're ready to obviously drink the fear juice. And so I want to have Melissa back on, and I want to keep these interviews a little bit shorter just so you guys can enjoy the rest of your day and also start putting these ideas and ideologies into action rather than just listening to us all day. And consuming is great, but with consumption, it's just as addicting as actually putting action out there and start doing the things that you want to do. And creating is the way to do it. So create a way. And again, thank you, Melissa, for being on Scratch Your Own Itch.
Thank you so much.
Again, thank you, Melissa, for being on Scratch Your Own Itch. there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch with Melissa and I. I really hope you enjoyed that. If you guys did, please pay me the best compliment ever by just sharing that. If you found it inspirational, informative, or at all something that you believe that should be shared with the world. But even more important than inspiration, I want you to know that if you thought about that question about what makes you you, then you're doing the work. And tweet about it, Facebook about it, Instagram about it. Think about that question, what makes you you? The most personalized you. And don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough.